All right, students. So last time we were talking about the environment, that businesses they do have an impact on the environment as well. So we talked about ethical code,
सर कंबर को
corporate.
ऐड कर लें, उसका मैसेज आ रहा है।
Okay, let me see. Um, okay, but unfortunately, I can't see Kambar there in the lobby, so I cannot add him. Okay, let me move on. But um, uh, tell Kamar that okay, try again, and then maybe I'll see him in the lobby and I'll admit him. Right now, I can't see his name there. All right. Okay, now I can see Kambar. Yes, yes. There we go.
सर कह
So
दिया मैंने।
okay, yes, Kambar is in now. All right. Okay, so we'll talk about today the arguments for environmentally sound businesses. Yesterday we talked about that yes, business activity has an impact on the environment as well, and we talked about different concepts involved in it like ethical code, cor- corporate social responsibility, right? So now we'll talk about that what are actually the arguments for environmentally sound businesses which always do such activities which are in the favor of the environment. So it might increase their cost, but their priority is to protect the environment. So either it is in the benefit of the business or not. So let's see, we'll talk about both sides of the picture, that is arguments for environmentally sound businesses and arguments against environmentally sound businesses. We'll talk about both of them. All right, let's see. First is marketing and promotional advantage. So this could be a huge advantage. So before I explain that, because it's easy, and I think that some of you can explain them as well. Abdullah Tayyib, can you answer me? Can you develop this point, marketing and promotional advantage to environmentally sound businesses? Yes, Abdullah.
सर मुझे नहीं आ रहा, मुझे नहीं पता।
Okay, Abiha.
जी सर।
Abiha, yes. Can you explain me the first point? How can we develop it?
नहीं सर, नहीं समझ आई, इतना कुछ दिमाग में नहीं आ रहा।
Okay, all right, all right. Okay, doesn't matter. Okay, then okay, I can ask um, Danish Hussain. Yes, Danish. See the first point and tell me how we can develop it.
No, sir, no idea.
Okay, all right, fine. So marketing and promotion advantage will be there to businesses
सर
which
मैं
are
बताऊँ,
environment sound businesses. Yes, please.
सर जब बिजनेसेस एनवायरमेंटली साउंड होंगे और वो मार्केटिंग स्ट्रेटजी बना सकते हैं अपनी कि वो सोशल वेलफेयर के लिए काम कर रहे हैं और अच्छा बिजनेस है।
All right. Okay. Okay. Great. It means you can win the hearts of the people because all businesses, everybody knows that all private businesses they have their main objective, that is profit. So now if you are taking care of the environment as well or people living in that environment nearby the business building or the workplace, then definitely people will have a soft corner about that business and business will be able to develop a very good image in the minds of the people who might be their customers as well. So in their advertisement or in their promotional campaigns, they can show that as a USP, that we are the only business or we are among those businesses which care about the environment as well. And we do not only consider the interests of the business only, we take care of the people and the environment as well. So it will help them charge a higher price because people realize that in order to protect the environment, they have to use expensive machinery, they have to do something to protect the environment which can increase their cost. Like, for example, dumping waste through a proper channel, having their vehicles which can throw that waste in the junkyard. So obviously, it all these activities involve cost. So people can realize that, and then higher price can be justified easily. Secondly, they can have an advantage that because they take care of the people and the environment as well, so they may have a competitive advantage over their competitors. And people might switch from competitors towards that business and they will start buying from them, resulting in higher revenue and higher profit as well. So, this is actually, they can use it as a marketing tool in their advertisements, in their promotional campaigns, that we are actually the environment caring or people caring organization. And because of that, when good image will be developed, it will be easier for the businesses to hire experienced and competent workers as well, because all good workers, they would like to work in an organization which has a very good reputation among the people, because they'll feel proud of working in that organization. It's not only about making money, it's about having a good reputation as well for the workers there. All right. Think about that. If you are, for example, you are an employee and you work in a cigarette manufacturing company, although you are getting a higher salary, but still in their mind, in the you will be realizing that okay, I am not actually working good for the environment or for the people. So, and people might tell you or criticize you that okay, you are working in an organization which manufactures cigarettes, you are actually creating more smokers. So this is how some people might not like to work in such an organization. Okay, all right. Next point is fines and bad publicity can be avoided, because sooner or later government can pass laws, and you know that, against such an activity which is polluting the environment. For example, if you are not dumping your waste through a proper channel and you are just throwing it outside your workplace, so there could be a problem. Right now, it is not in the notice of the government, but sooner or later, it may come in the notice of the government, because now the media is very clever, it's very efficient. So they may cover such an activity and government can come to know about it as well, and government can impose heavy fines on that business, and obviously bad publicity will spread around. So you can avoid that as well. So if other businesses are not doing it, you can have an advantage over other businesses. Yes, Abhiya, you want to say something? Okay. All right. Then we have motivation for workers. I told you. So I explained that in the first point, but you can have a separate point explaining workers only by focusing on the workers. That those workers who are already working in the organization, they'll be motivated because now they will feel proud of working in that organization, and they will tell people happily that we are working in a people caring organization, and they won't like to leave that organization. So in that way, there won't be much labor turnover, and it's also easier to attract workers working in an organization which is people caring or environment caring. So obviously, you know that what will happen if motivation is there among workers, they will be more productive, resulting in higher production, able to meet demands of the customers timely. Uh, and lower recruitment cost as well. Why? Because now there is no higher labor turnover. So you do not need to hire workers every now and then, because workers stick to the same organization that is owned by you, and they are more loyal to the organization as well. And loyalty again leads to hard work, dedication, and loyalty towards the organization. And you know that employees are one of the most important assets of an organization, because they deal with the customers on daily basis. So if they are happy, obviously they will be able to satisfy customers in a much better way, resulting in consumer loyalty as well. So it means employee loyalty may lead to consumer loyalty as well. And so you will find it easier to attract customers, and resulting in higher revenue and profit as well. Then we have arguments against environmentally sound businesses. There are some as well. One, cost advantage can be lost. So it means if in that region the other competitors are not following that, they are polluting the environment, they are using cheap machinery, and they are dumping their waste just outside the building or workplace. So they may have a cost advantage, right? Okay, over you. Okay, and People might not care about whether you are polluting the environment or not. They want products at a cheaper price. Simple as that. So in that case, you will have a problem because people they are not understanding that you are working for a good cause, and if you charge a higher price, they are not willing to pay. Even if you tell them that we are spending money on buying expensive machinery, we are dumping our waste through a proper channel, and that increase our cost. That is why we are charging high price. But if people are not able, they are not educated, and they do not care about that issue, so then there will be a problem, and you will be competed out of the market because people will start buying those cheaper products which are produced by your competitors who are not following these policies. So this could be one of the problems. Then we have businesses become less competitive. So more or less the same thing because now, for example, you do not increase the price, but your cost is going to go up at least in the short run. Your cost is going to go up, and if you do not increase price because of the competition, so obviously your profit is going to squeeze in the short run. So that could be one of the problem for the business as well. Then people may not accept high prices. I explained that, so maybe you can explain all these points in isolation as well or in one point as well. If you explain these points in one paragraph and you link it together, still you will get marks for analysis, and this is what we call series of arguments. Remember that. Okay, so this is how you can do it. You can write points
सर
separately as well, or
सॉरी
yes,
सेकंड पॉइंट जरा समझाते हैं business becomes less competitive वाला
okay, business become less competitive in the way that now they won't be able to uh, compete on price basis with other competitors. Why? Because competitors are using cheap machinery which is polluting the environment, so their cost is low. They are not dumping their waste properly, they are just throwing it outside their workplace, so there is no transport cost involved. So it means if their cost is low, I'm talking about their competitors, so they'll be able to charge a lower price. So in that way, the business which is environmentally sound, obviously their cost will be on the rise. Their cost is high, so they might not be able to charge the same price charged by the competitors who are not following that policy. So in that way, they will be less competitive, and people may not like to buy from them. Got it? Or any issue?
yes sir समझ आ
All
गया
right. Okay, fine. That's great. Okay, now we are moving on towards environmental audit. Again, it is related with environment. So now environmental audit, as you can see, audit means the scrutiny. So you actually see all the activities of your business, whether they are harming the environment or not. But remember, it is a volunteer effort. Sorry, it's a voluntary effort, right? It is not a compulsion by law, or it is not forced by the government. You do it on your own to have a good publicity in the near vicinity or among the your potential customers. So you do it on your own. So what is it? It is a voluntary assessment of the effect of business activity on the environment. So if you find out that there is something going on which is against clean environment, so you can take action. Okay, and you can just rectify it or recover or remove that activity from your business, or just try to do something which can improve that activity, and it may not further harm the environment. So it also can spread a good image among the consumers. Then we have social audit as well. Again, it is linked with environment, but social audit goes far more than environmental audit, because environmental audit only covers the environment issue. It does not cover consumers or consumers' health, but social audit, because it is linked with the society, so it means it talks about the people as well. Let's see. It is a report on the impact a business has on society. It not only covers pollution levels, this is what we call environmental audit, we just talked about, but also health and safety record, sources of supplies, customer satisfaction, and contribution to the community. Now remember, so they do see whether there could be some health issues or not. For example, if a business is not polluting the environment, but the products they are making, they are harmful for the health of the people. or harmful for the health of the workers. So they take care of that as well. With the help of social audit, they are able to find it out. Similarly, sources of supply. For example, if you are buying from a supplier who is polluting the environment, for example, so again they take care of it that they should not, they make sure that they should not buy from a supplier which pollutes the environment. Then customer satisfaction, that customer should be highly satisfied. They should get the product which they actually want. So their want should be completely satisfied. And contribution to the community in the sense that they may do something for the people living around. For example, if the policy of the business is such that they hire local people rather than people from other countries or other region. So in that way, obviously, they are contributing. How? That they are raising the employment in that region. And why? Because they have a policy to hire local people only. It will help the business as well. How? Because it will be convenient for the people to reach on time at the workplace, and the people would like to work in that organization which is closer to their house, right? So it helps the business as well, and it spread a good image as well. Through social audit, you will be able to discover whether you are contributing something to the community or not. Similarly, you can do something else, like for example, you construct roads nearby your area. It helps you to transport goods easily. Time is saved. Secondly, the people in the near vicinity, they can move around easily on those roads as well, because now there are no rough roads available there. So again, you are contributing to the community. Similarly, if you, for example, uh, construct a small powerhouse which can provide electricity to your factory, for example, in a rural area, so you help other people as well by installing electric poles over there. People can get help as well. Why? Because now when they are moving around, especially at night, so now everything is visible to them. So that again, for example, if there were some incidents of robbery or dacoity or accidents, now they may not occur because of that light poles there. Again, that is a contribution to the community. So social audit actually tells the organization whether they are actually focusing on these issues or not. So this is how they can actually develop a very good image in the market among the consumers and among the society as well, people who are living nearby. Okay, then we have now pressure groups. We'll talk about it. So let me just go to the original screen. Yes, that was the screen we were talking about. We started with that. I hope you can see that. Um, yeah, you can see that. So now, okay, we have covered technology, we have talked about government, and we have talked about social influences as well, right? So now we are talking about, we are in the process of covering that topic as well. That is environmental issues and pressure groups. So I told you that, for example, if there are environmental issues as far as your business is concerned, so sooner or later you are going to be affected. Why? Because then pressure groups will come into play. What are pressure groups? I'll ask you and then I'll explain that in detail. So let me ask Abdul Rahman Ranja. Abdul Rahman, do you know what is a pressure group?
यस सर
What is it?
सर ये एक ग्रुप होता है सर पब्लिक का सर जिसमें वो प्रेशराइज करते हैं फर्म्स को कोई अपनी राइट्स के लिए जिस तरह कोई पोल्यूशन फैला रही है कोई फर्म कोई और
All
इस
right.
तरह का सिस्टम
Okay, thank you, Abdul Rahman. Thank you very much. So pressure group is basically a body which consists of all individuals, okay, who have a common interest, a common objective which they want to achieve. And for that, they influence government, businesses, and consumers as well to achieve their common target or objective. So obviously, what do they do? And let's discuss it first. This is, just a minute. Let me show it to you. Here we go. Yes, pressure groups. Now, so pressure groups I told you that this is actually consists of lots of people. Okay, if there are greater number of people who are part of pressure group, the more strong that pressure group will be. Okay, and they influence businesses, government, or consumers in three different ways. One way is you can see the picture on your left side, media coverage. So if pressure group is financially strong, people fund them, so they may have a media coverage as well, because they might have links with different TV channels or newspaper agencies or social media group. So they can have a live coverage of that event going on. For example, if people they are shouting outside the workplace, so if media covers it, obviously it will have a great influence as far as the image of the business is concerned, because people can see it on their TV screen. Okay, so this is happening. It means that this business is against public interest. So it will damage the business heavily. So this is one way you can invite media to cover their event or their activity which they are doing. Okay, second is they can, if you see the picture on your right side, that is boycott. And you know that what is it? It is actually about influencing consumers. So you influence consumers through maybe advertisements or banners, placards. You try to educate consumers, inform consumers that there is something going wrong in the business. So you inform them and you tell them that because it is against public interest or against the clean environment, so do not buy from that business any product which is manufactured by that business. Again, it can damage heavily to the business if consumers listen to the pressure group, and lots of consumers they make up their mind not to buy from that business or the brand of that business. So again, there is a problem. Then we have another strategy they can use, that is walks and protests. They can move on the roads with placards and with lots of people. Obviously, there will be a traffic jam as well, and people will come to know about it. Now, if you have uh, contacts with media or not, still media will cover it. Why? Because if there are thousands of people on the road, so obviously there is a news for the media. So obviously they like to cover that as a breaking news. So in that way, again, the business can be influenced. That, for example, if the business is not taking precautionary measures while dumping their waste, so now they have to listen to that pressure group, because single individual cannot pressurize the business, but thousands of people together they form a pressure group, and then they are able to influence the business, and then business has to, or businesses have to listen to them, right? So this is what we call a pressure group. Anybody who is not clear about pressure groups or the tactics they use, let me know. So it's fine. All right, great. Now let's move on. Okay, yes, pressure groups, I talked about it, but I want to show it to you as well. It's about pressure groups are organizations created by people with a common interest, right? Or aim, who put pressure on either businesses, government, and consumers. It depends. And why do they do it? To change policies or change their purchasing habits. So that the objective is reached, whatever common objective they have. So if I talk about policies, so government makes policies, business makes policies, right? So they can influence those policies by using these tactics I talked about. So for example, if government has imposed more taxes, for example, on people in the form of income tax, so pressure group can come into play. They can come up with walks and protests against the government policies. Same is the case with, they can come against business policies as well if they are not in the favor of workers, employees, or the people in the community or society. So, and they can influence consumers as well, not to buy from them. Okay. And the tactics are, how do they operate? We have talked about it. Media coverage, influencing consumer behavior, that is boycott, lobbying of government. Again, so includes walks and protests which are there. All right. And if I say pressure groups, so there are many pressure groups operating in the world, and few of them which are very famous. Greenpeace, which focuses on environmental protection. You do not need to remember those pressure groups, but at least you have an idea about it. So they focus on environmental protection. Then we have Fair Trade Foundation. It focuses on achieving a better deal for poor agricultural producers. You know that farmers are always exploited because they are poor and they do not have access to the market. So the middlemen, they buy from farmers at a very cheap rate, and farmers do not get a fair price and they remain poor. Okay, then we have WWF, focuses on improving animal welfare. You know that earlier panda was uh, going to extinct, and then they realized that if panda, the animal, you know that if it won't be there, then because it's a beautiful animal, so it should not uh, uh, like the people, they should not actually take any action which can extinct panda. Similarly, so they actually take care of the animals which are very rare, or their generation is actually in danger to be extinct. Then Amnesty International as well focuses on human rights. So if you think that maybe the humans are being exploited, or they are not giving their due wages, or maybe their health is maybe in danger because of some business activities, so they come into play and they play their part. All right. So, and last is Jubilee 2000. Again, it's their focuses on eliminating the debt burden on LDCs. LDCs means less developed countries, people, sorry, countries which are underdeveloped. So obviously they have to borrow money from other countries like Pakistan. So they are under huge amount of debt. Same is the case with Pakistan as well. So they try to work for such countries which are under huge debt burden, and they try to request other countries to eliminate the debt burden so that those economies can also prosper. They can also progress. So this is how these pressure groups work. And I told you that if a pressure group is heavily financed, heavily funded, so and they have lots of members in that pressure group, then it will be considered as a strong pressure group. And obviously the businesses, governments and consumers, they are bound to listen to them. Otherwise smaller pressure groups may not have any impact on any of the activity, or they fail to achieve their common objective. Okay, so that's it. So it means we have finished this chapter. That was about external factors which influence business activities, right? So we finished it. So now we'll move on to, okay, now what will I do? I'll share the notes of the chapter, and you can revise all the whole chapter, right? And later on you can come up with questions if you have any regarding the notes.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, please.
सर जी आप चैप्टर जब स्टार्ट होते तभी नोट्स दे दिया करें सर, वो साथ साथ पढ़ना होता है फिर.
Okay, all right. Okay, fine. So I will share chapter 7 notes as well and chapter 8 notes as well. I understand that when I deliver my lesson, so you need something to read it or to revise it so that you can come up with questions. So I understand. Yeah, that's right. So thank you very much for your idea. Okay, so next time I'll do it. Inshallah, I'll share it today in the group, and then you can revise them as well. Okay, so we are going to start now the next chapter, that is chapter number 9. All right, and it is quite related with economics. So all those students who are studying A levels economics, they might have an advantage. Okay, but it does not mean that others cannot learn. They can also learn. So this is about chapter number 9, external economic influences on business behavior. Up till now, in the previous chapter, we have talked about external influences, remember, but we have not talked about economic influences. We have talked about government, technology, social influences, right? Pressure groups, environment, but we have not talked about economic influences. So now we'll see what are economic influences and how do they impact businesses. And I'm telling you, in paper 3, there are appendices there at the end of the case study, and you will always find economic data there. So economic data is basically the economic factors which can affect business behavior. So it is very, very important. I'm telling you why, because every now and then when we'll start doing past papers, you will see that the economic data will always be there in almost all case studies, if not all. So it is a very important chapter from that point of view. You might not be required to explain those concepts, but the main thing is you need to know how would it have an impact on business activity or the business which is given in the case study. Let's discuss it one by one. First of all, we'll talk about economic objectives of government. So I know that many of you are clear about it because some actually studied economics in O levels as well. So let me ask you, and then I'll Anusha Azhar. I hope that your mic is fine now. Can you tell me any of the economic objectives set by the government? Anusha Azhar? Anusha? All right. So you have a problem, huh? Okay, I'll talk to you. Bisma Harun. Bisma, are you there?
नहीं पता सर.
Okay, all right. Fine. Hassan Abbas. Hassan Abbas, any idea?
No, sir.
Okay. Ramin Shahid. Any idea about economic objectives of government?
Higher GDP.
Sorry?
Higher GDP.
Very good. Thank you very much. High GDP. So actually we use the term economic growth for it. Thank you very much, Ramin. So one of the objective is economic growth. Okay. Let's discuss them now one by one because some of you are not familiar with it. The first is economic growth. So that is actually told to us by Ramin. Economic growth means that when the country or economy is able to produce more than what they were producing in the previous year. For example, if a country is able to produce 10,000 units in a year, next year they are able to produce 10,500 units. So we'll say there is economic growth going on, and economic growth is essential for every business, because if you are able to produce more, you'll be able to satisfy your people's needs in a much better way, and later the excess amount can be exported to other countries as well. And I told you earlier why exports are important. Navyan Arif, can you explain me why exports are important? Navyan? Navyan, are you there? All right. तो कंबर से पूछ लेते हैं, वो आते जाते रहते हैं. Right now he is there. Yes, Kambar, please. Kambar, explain me why exports are important for a country.
क्या सर एक दफा फिर से सवाल रिपीट कर दें?
So why don't you sit there in front of your computer or your cell phone? My question is, economic growth may lead to higher exports of a country. So why exports are important for a country? That is my question. Ji Kambar. Kambar, please answer.
जी सर. सर एक्सपोर्ट्स इम्पोर्टेंट होती हैं क्योंकि वो लोगों को और फर्म्स को मतलब मार्केट्स में गुड्स वगैरह.
जी कैरी ऑन.
सर मार्केट में गुड्स वगैरह प्रोड्यूस करते हैं जो वो फिर एक्सपोर्ट कर सकते हैं पैसों के लिए और फॉरेन करेंसी अर्न करने के लिए और ये वो।
All right. Okay. So you are right, Kambar. One is that profit can be earned by the businesses in other markets as well. Now it means if they are not only confined to their own country, now they can sell it to other countries as well. So more profit can be earned. But one very
पॉजिटिव पेमेंट आ सकता है।
yes, why not? One very important point highlighted by Kambar. I think he did not know about that. That is foreign exchange. Foreign exchange
सर
reserve.
पता था मैंने चांद बोला है।
Acha, okay. Thank you very much, then Kambar. Very good. Thank you very much. So foreign exchange is very crucial for a country. Why? Because if you sell your goods to other countries, they pay, obviously you get foreign currency, and later on you have to buy something from other countries as well. I told you earlier. For example, you are getting dollars from a country. Later on you have to buy oil from Saudi Arabia, and they ask for dollars. So now you do not need to exchange rupees with dollars because you already have dollars. So it does not matter how high the value of the dollar is. It will make no difference to your country. Why? You already have dollars. So that's why you will pay dollars and you will get the barrels of oil from Saudi Arabia. So that is why, and no country can claim that they can produce everything which is required by the people of the country. So you have to buy from other countries as well. So for that you require foreign currency. So that is why exports are very crucial. Okay, so this is one objective is economic growth. And you know that when economic growth is there, more output is being produced, people will get more variety, higher quality of goods, so their living standard will increase as well. At the same time, you know that although there is another objective, but I may link it with employment as well. Economic growth leads to more employment opportunities because if more output is produced, you require more workers. So it will increase the level of employment in the country as well. Second is low price inflation. Now I want somebody to answer. Rabia, Malik, can you tell me what is low price inflation?
I don't know sir, मैंने कभी economics पढ़ी नहीं है।
पढ़ी नहीं है। अच्छा चले फिर अब सुन लें। तलाल मुगल, any idea?
जी सर।
What is low price inflation? Any idea?
सर जो पर ईयर जो एक गुड की प्राइस जो रेज होती है उसे इन्फ्लेशन कहते हैं, और अगर वो कम पेस पे तो उसे लो प्राइस इन्फ्लेशन कहते हैं।
कम पेस पे है, ओके, ऑलराइट, ओके, I'll comment on that. तैयबा नजीफ दीवान, can you add to it? तैयबा, are you there? ओके
सर मेरा ख्याल अगर इन्फ्लेशन लो रेट से इंक्रीज हो रही है उससे मेरे ख्याल लो प्राइस इन्फ्लेशन कहते हैं।
ओके, ऑलराइट,
इन्फ्लेशन का रेट जो स्लोली इंक्रीज हो रहा है अगर।
ओके, वेरी गुड, दैट्स राइट, थैंक यू वेरी मच. Inflation means rate of increase in price. So when prices are rising, it means there is inflation. But prices can rise at a slower pace, right, or at a rapid pace. So when in both cases prices are rising, but if prices are rising by, for example, if I say prices are rising by 4%, like in Japan there is low inflation. Now when I say prices are rising by 4%, so what does it mean? Let me give you an example. For example, if the price of an item, although inflation is not all about the price of one item, but just to give you a very simple example, although we'll talk about it in detail. For example, the price is 100. So if the inflation is 4%, so price will reach to 104. That is what we call inflation. Okay. But if inflation is 110%, so instead of reaching to 104, price will reach to 110. So it means in both the cases, price is rising. But in one case, it is rising slowly, and in the other case, it is rising rapidly. So when price rises slowly, we call it low price inflation. Remember that. And if I say there is zero inflation, remember, if I say there is zero inflation in a country, it means if prices were 100 earlier, now the next year the prices are still 100. There is no increase, no fluctuation in price at all. Okay, but if I say there is negative inflation, For example, if I say inflation is minus 2%, remember, we'll talk about these objectives in detail in the next class, but still you need to have some idea about these objectives. So when I say inflation is minus 2%, it means if earlier the prices were 100, next year they go down to 98, because now it's minus 2%. It means this is deflation.
सर
Yes.
सर डिफ्लेशन और ये नेगेटिव इन्फ्लेशन का जरा डिफरेंस बता दीजिएगा.
Yeah, deflation and negative inflation are the same. There is no difference at all.
सर जब
So,
रेट ऑफ इन्फ्लेशन डिक्रीज हो रहा होता है उसको नेगेटिव इन्फ्लेशन नहीं कहते.
no, not at all. Actually, in economics, because in a business, I don't want to explain that, but because you've asked a question, so I'll explain you. For example, if inflation is falling, for example, earlier the inflation was 10%, now it is 8%, then 4%. So prices are still rising, but now they are rising at a lower pace. So we actually call it disinflation. Remember, it's not negative. Negative inflation or deflation will only occur when it goes below zero. So right now it's 4%, then 2%, 1%, 0.4%. So still it is inflation. Unless and until it goes below zero, we call it deflation or negative inflation. So we'll talk about it, whether it is beneficial for the economy or not, but not right now. So Talal, is it okay?
Yes sir.
Okay. Next is low level. Right now, I am not talking about the impact of the objectives. We'll talk about it. Low levels of unemployment, we have talked about it. So I want Junaid to answer. Junaid, why government wants to have an objective of low level of unemployment? What is the purpose?
सर मैं लॉग आउट हो गया था. मैं अभी है हूँ सर 2 मिनट पहले.
तो कोई बात नहीं, आंसर तो दें.
सर नहीं पता.
नहीं पता. All right. So Muhammad Salar, please answer my question.
सर मुझे भी नहीं पता.
All right. From next time, because I got an idea, a very useful idea, I will share my resources, my notes with you beforehand, so that at least you can read it and then you will come up with some contribution in my next class. Okay. All right. Tuba, please answer. I know you have the answer. Tuba Nasir, low levels of unemployment.
सर ये जो गवर्नमेंट है वो चाहेगी कि उसके ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा लोग जो हैं वो एम्प्लॉयड हों, और ताकि उनको वो अपनी कॉस्ट वेलफेयर बेनिफिट से सेव कर सके एक तरीके से.
Very good. Thank you very much, Tuba. That's right. One is, it is a duty of the government to provide employment, because if there is high level of employment there or low level of unemployment, now government does not need to provide them with unemployment allowance, because all welfare states like Sweden, Canada, England, what do? If people are unemployed, government pays them the money. This is what we call unemployment allowance. So it means the money which could have been used for the development of the country, now it is being given to the people. So this is a non-productive expenditure. It means nothing is being produced, but money is being spent by the government. So when there will be low level of unemployment, now government can use that money for the development of the country, for the growth of the economy, right? So that is why it will help the government a lot. Secondly, low level of unemployment will increase the living standard of the people as well. And now people will be able to pay tax as well, because when income will be generated by the people, they will pay tax from their income. Secondly, they will buy more items, because now they are able to afford those items. So when they buy those items, again they will pay sales tax. That is what we call indirect tax. So it means the tax revenue for the government will increase, and now the revenue can be used for public welfare. Okay, next is favorable balance of payment. Now, favorable balance of payment is, I think somebody explained that as well, but I want somebody to explain that concept. What is favorable balance of payment? Muhammad Ali Tarar, explain it, please. Muhammad Ali, what is favorable balance of payment?
Sir, when the price of exports, the money earned by exports and the money spent on imports is almost same.
Same. Okay. All right. Aruj Mustafa, please comment on that.
सर जब imports कम हो और exports ज़्यादा हो.
Very good. Thank you very much, Aruj. Great answer. So when it's not about that both are equal, the value of exports is greater than the value of imports. In fact, it's not about the price as well. Remember, the value of exports, the money you are getting from other countries is greater than the money which you are paying to other countries, right? So we call it a favorable balance of payment, or balance of payment is in surplus. And it means that your foreign exchange reserves will increase. Otherwise, if balance of payment is unfavorable, it means more money is going out of the country, less money is coming into the country. And you will be running short of foreign reserves because you are using that foreign reserves to pay to other countries because your imports are higher. So eventually you will run out of foreign reserves, and then there will be a problem, because then the exchange rate of the other country's currency will increase, and then you have to buy that currency, and then it will be costly for you to buy that. As you are looking at dollar, now it is soaring high, and it's not easy to buy goods from America because their currency rate is appreciating. So the countries, they want to have favorable balance of payment. Then we have exchange rate stability. Exchange rate stability, what is it? It means, I can explain that there should not be major change in the value of the currency against any other currency. For example, earlier I know that 10 years back, dollar was equal to 60 rupees. $1 was equal to 60 rupees. Now it is touching 170, right? So it means that exchange rate stability is not there. And it actually harmed Pakistan and Pakistani people. And that is why things are getting expensive, especially imported items. Because other countries, they want payment in dollars. And we do not have dollars because we have lower exports. So we have to buy dollars first. And that is why the value of the dollar is increasing, because we are demanding more dollars. So the exchange rate stability is there. For example, if it would have been the case that the $1 would have remained equal to 60 rupees, now it would be very easy for us to buy from America or from other countries by paying them in dollars. So exchange rate stability is a must. Why? It is important for exporters and importers. Why? Because, for example, if exchange rate is fluctuating, other countries will hesitate to have a business with the people who are living in that country whose exchange rate is fluctuating, because one has to suffer loss. And how they'll suffer loss, either importer or exporter, I'll explain you in the next class, because this is a difficult mechanism to explain. So I'll explain that in the next class. So thank you very much. I'll see you in the next class. That's all for today.
Allah Hafiz, sir.
Khuda Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz, sir.
Khuda Hafiz.